So I keep this little labyrinth, this little Troy Town labyrinth on one of my altars, and it's sort of carved out so you can trace from start to finish with your finger. And occasionally I'll get it down and kind of, do that in a meditative way. But most of the time, it just sits there, staring at me, right? Maybe reflecting me is probably a better idea. So the reason I start with that this week is that there is a question that we should all be asking ourselves, those of us who do any kind of deeper spiritual work with the plants, be it that your work is exclusively magical, ritual, that you are involved in the manifestation, transformative, ritualized aspect of the plant work. Awesome, you're my people. Or be it that you are someone interested in or professionally practicing herbalism, herbal medicine, but that you approach it from a deeper, more ancient, more ancestral spiritual perspective rather than a contemporary pop reductionist, molecular only perspective. Or maybe you're like me and you hold them in both hands, right? So there's this question that we should be asking ourselves all the time. And I notice for me that this is the time of year when that question comes up. So I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask myself as well. And that question is, what's the point? Why do we do this work, right? On a surface level, we can all say, I do this work to help people, to help people heal, to help people find peace, to help people attain their goals, to help relieve people of burdens or blockages or obstacles. I think that the definition could apply to both the magico and the medicinal applications. And of course, for those of us that have worked to reweave those two definitions, it certainly applies. Cool. It's great that we should want to be compassionate and to follow in the footsteps of Empedocles, who is, someone who I think a lot about how I do my work comes from him. And Empedocles would say that the universe is situated between these two possibilities of love and strife, and that everything you do nudges the entirety of the whole thing an iota further in one direction or the other, right? Love or strife. So tangent already. I'm already doing tangents. We're 4 minutes in and I'm already on tangent. Beyond that, why are you here? Why are you doing this work? Why are you buying the books and studying and sitting with the plants and learning the plants and journeying with the plants and taking the courses and watching the classes and rereading the books? And if you're like me, losing sleep sometimes because you're laying there excited about some idea that you have or some experience that you have, let me give you a possible answer that maybe you could chew on, and maybe you already have this answer, or maybe you have gone in a totally different direction. For me, someone having come up in early American witchcraft, early American Renaissance witchcraft, right in the 90s, and moved into neo-pagan druidry and have a very solid foundation in neo-pagan druidry, initiated member of ADF and a couple other groups and all that. I have a solid foundation in tradition, in practices, but I don't really do any of it anymore. And the reason is because this has become my spiritual path. Working with the plants is my spirituality, right? It's how I engage, it's how I'm informed, it's how I do what I do. So my answer to that question of why am I here? What's the point of it all? Is first and foremost that for me, this is how I engage with something bigger than myself. This is my spirituality. It's my religious pursuit. It's my philosophical daydream, and also my passion and my profession, right? So that's nice. But beyond that, there's like even another layer, which is it's a little hard to talk about directly. So hopefully this lands and this isn't one of those classes. It's just a 15-minute rant. This work offers us an opportunity to examine ourselves, to work on our shit, right? To walk the labyrinth from the external to the internal, from the avoidant to the confrontational. And I don't mean confrontational, a bad word. I mean just looking at things as they are, the truth of things. For me, one of the coolest answers to that question, that may not be your native response to that question, but one of the coolest things that we can at least think about and kind of chew on is, how can my involvement with this work benefit me, make me a better person, make me someone who holds a space that Empedocles says constantly nudges the fullness of the cosmos into deeper states of harmony, into deeper states of love, rather than strife, or the, of course, pan-Indo-European context of chaos, right? We don't want that stuff. This is an opportunity for us to self-reflect. And so one cool thing that so many people overlook, myself included, I have to bring myself back to this all the time, is that by studying the plant medicine, by studying the plant magic, by studying the journey work and the meditation and aligning to the cycles and just like all the stuff, we are equipped with this massive, effective toolbox of tools that we can use when we discover parts of ourselves that we don't feel good about, right? And this is a little sticky and I can't go too far into it, but I can say, there's a difference that all of us intuitively know between parts of ourselves that we don't feel good about for real, and then parts of ourselves that we don't feel good about because of societal conditioning or toxic self-beliefs, right? There's a difference between I sit in traffic and fantasize about slamming into the person in front of me because I'm so impatient and I'm so annoyed by the whole thing, finding something physical about my body that I dislike and beating myself up about. They're two very different things. So I'm talking specifically about those things about our personality, our responses, the way we hold space that we know aren't really us, right? They're not who we want to be. They're not who we know we are. They're reactive, and they're coming from places of hurt and trauma and anger and resentment and pattern and all of that. And we all know those things because, for most of us anyway, right? There's some folks that have to navigate this in a different way. But for a general, gross generalization is that when you lay in bed at night and something you did or said earlier in the day is eating at you and you're like embarrassed about it, or you really wish you would have handled it differently, there's an opportunity there to do some healing. It's not an opportunity to shame yourself, to guilt yourself, to beat yourself up. That's not helpful. We don't do that. I don't do that in my herbal practice with my clients. I don't do that with you, and I don't want to do it to myself. I do because I'm a human person, but I try to talk myself out of it. So we have all these tools to find the places within us where we're not operating in a way that feels that good, right? So to me, that is the deeper reason of why, is that I can work on my stuff. I can explore the parts of myself that I'm not happy with, or that don't feel like the best version of myself, or that feel reactive rather than empowered. And I can work with my plant allies to start exploring that and then maybe healing it. Maybe I find through this work that I could soften my heart a little bit, that I could slow down a little bit and embrace slowness and waiting like the trees do, to get out of that hurry energy. Whatever it is, we have the tools and the resources in this work to address all that stuff, right? Because the beauty of reweaving magic and medicine is that we recognize there's no place and no way the plant spirits cannot help us, right? They're not limited to the physical body. They will cascade out in any part of your narrative where you invite them. So if you recognize that you can be a really impatient, really short-fused person when you have to wait for other people, or when you're boxed in, or when you're running late, work on it, right? Instead of just being like, oh, I do that and I hate that I do that. And that's what I listen for with clients when clients say stuff like, I hate that I do that. Cool, stop doing it then. Let's work on it, right? there's no reason for us to carry around things we hate about ourselves that we have any level of control over. It may be a long process of whittling away at that, and there may be other things that we need to do in addition to working with plants to get in there. Talk therapy, I say it all the time, I'm a huge fan of good talk therapy. But we have these great resources where while we're doing all the magic and while we're doing all the medicine and while many of us are thinking about how we can apply what we learn from the plants in service of our communities and our friends and families and the greater good, you can also think about Gaia philosophy, that each of us in a certain way acts like a cell within the body of the world, and being the best cell we can be is radically supportive to harmony and beauty and love, right? All of these terms that kind of get thrown around a little bit. And I'm not even trying to say any of that in like this kind of hippie, wooey way. I mean like real harmony, things working well, things dovetailing together, people getting along, people respecting one another, cultures having exchanges that are affirming and empowering to one another without theft or anything like that. Like, those ideals are incredibly real. They're real. They make a real difference in real life every day. So if you start, for whatever reason, getting bored or wondering what's next or wondering what you can work on, or you're learning about plants, but maybe you're planning to go to herb school or do some clinical work or an apprenticeship, and you're not in the place yet where you're working on people, and you're like, how can I put all of this stuff to work? Maybe you don't even have any reason to do herbal magic in your life. You feel good. Start making room to see and experience the things that you do that don't feel right. And I say this all the time. If it doesn't feel good, it's probably not. And it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. That's a big part of this, and that's been a big part of this for me, is it doesn't mean that you are messing up or you're doing it wrong or whatever. It just means that somewhere along the way, something got patterned in, or you learned a response that was effective at one point that's no longer effective, or you were conditioned into responding to something in a way that just doesn't sit well with you anymore. The radical nature of plant medicine tells us you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. If you don't want to grow that way, don't, right? Bring the plants in and let them soften or cool or warm or circulate or release. Yeah? Whatever that stuff is. So as we go into the winter months and things quiet down, a lot of us end up spending a lot of time with our own thoughts in our head. Wherever you go, there you are, right? It's easy during the active, warm, sunny months to be so engaged and so busy and active that we don't really see maybe some of the things that have settled in, and then suddenly it's winter and it's cold and we want to be inside, and we're realizing, I've got some stuff going on. So this is a really beautiful time of year after the release of autumn, as we start to cool down and center in and bundle up, to come inside, to go within and to explore, where's there room for me to work on my stuff, to learn more about who I am, and to explore different ways of being that might feel better for me, that might feel more harmonious. And I guess one note I'll end on here is a lot of people don't do this internal work because they're worried that they don't know what's good for everyone, right? How do I behave in the most harmonious way with the universe when there are days I'm not really sure how to behave in the most harmonious way for like my little bubble, right? And I come back to that reminder. We are part of nature. There is no nature and you, universe and you. Like, we're all connected in such a deep way that generally, and if this isn't for you, you'll know by now, right? That you've got other stuff going on and you have to navigate these things differently. But generally, if something feels good, if it feels right, it's right. It is the harmonious thing to do. If it looks beautiful to you, then it's the beautiful thing you can do. If it feels harmonious for you, if it feels dovetailed and synchronistic and flowy, then that's the thing for you to do. And somebody else subjectively could say, it's not how I would have done it. But then they need to do it their way, and them doing their thing and you doing your thing, and both being in states that feel beautiful and feel loving and feel harmonious, create love and beauty and harmony, which is, really the root of this work, the root of what the plant spirits do, the root of what the old gods do, the root of what our ancestors do, the root of what we can do is to just nudge, Empedocles' version of the universe, to just nudge it ever so further into deeper states of harmony. Most, if not all, ancient nature-based animistic traditions did not have concepts of being saved, of going to some far-off heaven, of the world starting on this date and being ended on this date. So the responsibility is on us that the universe is created from an infinite number of relationships, and that the one thing we can do is to try to make those relationships beautiful ones, harmonious ones, because this will go on infinitely. There is no last day that we can lean on and behave however we want, knowing that somebody's going to come in and sweep up after us, or that when we wreck everything that we'll get swooped up and carried off into some heavenly realm where we just don't have to deal with it anymore. These are not animist concepts. Animism is not about escapism. It's not about turning our back on this world, seeing it as a trap or an illusion, and looking up to some other perfected realm. It's actually about putting our face into the dirt and looking deeper into the place where we are, the place where we've come in, right? We're here for a reason. And so many people spend the whole time they're here looking somewhere else, trying to get out of it, right? So some ideas to think about. Let me know what you think. It's a lot. Maybe we'll do some guided meditations and stuff on this at some point, because I think it would be helpful. But really just a cool conversation to have, and a cool way to ask ourselves questions that force us to go deeper and deeper into the work, and not just the work, but the work internally as well, and we will benefit. So with that, thank you for hanging out for 20 minutes of this. I will prepare folks who watch a lot of these classes too before I go. I'm moving in favor of doing a little bit more of classes in this style. We'll still do our monthly Materia Medica classes that are PowerPoint driven, and I will still do classes where I come in with a syllabus and a list of things I want to talk about, but it feels better to me, feels more harmonious and more beautiful for me to just sit down with you person to person and tell you what's on my mind and on my heart and what I'm thinking about. So let me know what you think, positive, negative. I'm open to all of that, and I look forward to seeing you all at the next class. With blessings of peace and plenty. Take care.